Who's better than Fissure? Nobody! Truly inspiring to see a main tank player get traded to a team that looked like they might be bottom feeders and transform them into playoff contenders. Fissure's main tank play is spectacular. Statistically, we might nitpick over some of his heroes that aren't Winston, as sometimes his playmaking approach to main tank can lead to him getting focused down, and definitely when the Gladiators do lose, it often is down to focusing Fissure. However, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And when you're looking to try to carry a team, you're going to have to take some risks and make plays out of them, and that's what we see from Fissure more often than not. Today we're going to focus in on particularly his Winston play and a matchup against the Philadelphia Fusion, because for context, he was going up against Carpe, who also is an MVP candidate, and Carpe was absolutely popping off. Many of you on Twitter were asking me, how the heck did Fusion lose that game? With the spectator camera on Carpe a lot of the time, it felt like Fusion should have been easily winning that series, especially the last map on Dorado. But if you look at Fissure's output on that match, despite his DPS teammates getting wrecked by one of the best DPS in the world, Fissure died 4 times over the course of the entire map. And when your main tank never dies, they're going to be controlling the engagement in a suffocating way, and that's what we're going to break down here today. First, the fun part, Fissure's primal rages are the thing of legend. Let's take a closer look at how Fissure controls this primal rage to get so much value out of it. And I think this clip is the best to show that. The new nickname I'm going to give him is Water, because this man covers 3/4 of the earth. He's just everywhere, man. He often will start his primals in order to get that little extra bit of melee damage to confirm a kill, and from moment to moment, he's relentlessly pursuing the best target. Get to smack onto Shadowburn in the window, can't follow up on that, moves on to the meching Diva. That's not the best target, now pursues onto Carpe, tracks his motion, and it's his movement that's really slick here that allows him to keep on these squishies as they start flying away. His control of the jumps is what really allows him to do this. And it's the same reason why, whether it be him swatting Pharos out of the sky or tracking down squishies, knowing how they move and controlling the leaps so he gets Winston to glide parallel to them, that's how you keep your Winston damage in play, and how Fissure turns his primal rages into a one-man wrecking crew, just stomping his way through the entire enemy team, trying to make contact with as many things as he can, and almost like a Tracer player would, switching targets from moment to moment in order to pursue the lowest one that you can confirm a kill on, all the while using his movement to keep himself in range so that he can deal his damage. So that's what he's working with. The mechanics of his Winston play is really great. A lot of players undercut the value of mechanics on tank play. Don't do that. It's incredibly important and what divides Fissure from the rest. Now I'm going to move on to his decision making, which is how you put up a 4-death performance against a DPS all-star popping off. Big ult fight for the streets phase. All the while Carpe popping heads, Gladiators are falling, but Fissure manages perfectly to both control the cart, contest it when needed, and peel back for the aggression coming into his backline. And it's not just his primal raids juggling that's great, but his management of juggling the priorities of where he needs to be from moment to moment that's so impressive. Shadowburn's blade comes back, he lets Bijou contest the cart while he peels back to contest the Dragon Blade, minimizing its impact. Bijou goes down, Fissure just barely makes it onto the cart on time, dancing around to stall the cart, deny damage. You might not think this is incredible, but all of that shake and bake in order to keep the cart stalled allows for his team to get a big regroup coming back. And keep in mind, he started this fight with a primal rage. He gets another one to go at the enemy team with. When you talk about great tank play, this is the type of stuff you're talking about. Gets his entire team back, and now they're allowed to get another retake fight. And the economics of that play can't get understated, because now it forces the Fusion to pop both of their support ults just to stay in this thing. And they're just popping everything. If Shadowbird's trying to pull out another blade, he helps get the elim on that and tries to dodge another swing, but it gets him killed by Carpe, and eventually they're able to muscle their way through with all of those resources put in. All of this comes back to the really great cart stall that came before that snuck in an extra defensive team fight that otherwise may have fallen. I think that's something that oftentimes players forget how it works with the ult economy, but imagine if Fusion had Blade and both support ults going into the final phase without having to need some time to charge them up again. Gladiators would have been in a much worse spot. As it is though, Carpe goes off on a flank. It gets some insane shots. He's been getting these all game, right? Forcing for Gladiators to retreat, but they pop all of their ults largely just to sustain. They don't win the team fight with the support ults. Philadelphia's able to parry back from them, and Fissure holds his primal until then in order to minimize the impact that the aggression will have. Again, staying alive and buying time for the respawns for his team to come back yet again. This is sort of the ebb and flow of smart defensive Winston play to know your limits and minimize the impact on the objective that the enemy can have. And this clean defensive posture ends up being what gets the hold here, because when your tank and support core don't make mistakes, it can feel impossible to get any headway into the fight. The same tactics we saw on Streets phase, fending off Carpe, coming back to Peel, rotating back and forth, not a whole lot of DPS going on in any case, until so much of this clean play gets overwhelming. Fissure builds up another Primal Rage and goes King Kong on them, silencing that push and denying any hope of advancement. Now, to be clear, the Fusion did make quite a few mistakes in that as well, but at the same time, it's way easier to make mistakes than it is to play a really clean game. And oftentimes in Overwatch, the team that just plays cleaner will win, even when you have DPS that were popping off. Moving on to the attack, look at this incredibly long mad flank that Fissure goes on in order to set up an elaborate long-range dive. It jumps in from downtown to get a collapse and crossfire onto the bunker comp. If that isn't a hero play, I don't know what is. And yet another reason why you shouldn't all just funnel into that classic Dorado choke for 4 minutes while you get full held. Fissure showing us the power of a mad flank. Now, Fusion actually had a reasonable ability to hold them here on Streets phase. You give Carpe room, he's gonna find headshots, and Gladiators are really struggling to get anywhere without their squishies getting picked off. Probably miscommunication here. Shadowburn ends up going in with his blade alone. Gladiators focus him down, and in the chaos, the focus fire of the Gladiators is great. I mean, look, no one else is even taking damage but Neptuno. They focus him down. Fissure gets the final blow. Fissure peeks into this room and sees Carpe escaping, doggedly pursues him, and look again, using his leap to mirror the movement escape of Carpe so that he's able to track throughout the grapple hook, keep his damage on target, kills him before the supports get the respawn, and it's those little optimizations that allows you to get those final blows that if you don't perform mechanically appropriately there, MVP candidate Carpe stays alive, maybe gets some shots off, and carries the entire game. Decides not to go in with his entire primal by himself. He wanted to get the burst kill, but trading out for the support ults probably seems good enough. Boombox's trance saves it, but look how he nearly gets the mercy into his entire team anyway. This doesn't end up working, but he picks out one squishy to zone out away from the Transcendence, and it nearly allows for his team to follow up on the damage. Really cool play, and another reason why you gotta be looking out if he's got primal. I mean, it feels more lethal than a Dragon Blade nowadays. Now, the Fusion aren't able to mount a retake here. They are fighting into a Valkyrie, but at the same time, the tank and team play of Fusion doesn't really command any space. They're all funneling into a small choke, which is what the Gladiators want. Of course, you'd have to imagine if any aggression came from either high ground, Fissure would have contained that as well. And moving on into third, Fusion still entirely in this game. Surefour making probably the biggest play he did in the entire map after a pretty quiet game. Gets the shutdown on Shadowburn's blade, getting burst damage through the Transcendence. That's terrifying. Both support ults popped for Fusion. They were really trying to get the damage out of that Genji blade, not able to do it. And interestingly enough, both tanks for Gladiators have their ults here, but they're trying to get as much cart as possible without using them. Fissure lurking on cart control yet again, using that moment-to-moment target prioritization, fending off the aggro plays that are coming towards him, allows for the focus fire to be there on Hotba as he tries for a pretty risky self-destruct, and with his backline secured, he goes at the enemy's backline and forces Neptuno to keep the pocket on Boombox way out in the back. Healer zoned out, that's going to give his cart presence allies a big advantage, as then they can easily focus down Sado. Boombox charges up the Transcendence and tries to get it onto the cart to stall, but he can't even do that. Fissure knocks him away as well. No stall for you. The control of these engagements is just picture perfect. Fusion always on the back foot when Gladiators were on attack, and ultimately baited in and corralled when the Gladiators were on the defense. Really good team fundamentals and a crucial win. The Fusion are not looking to be one of the best teams anymore, but it's because of really solid play that can overcome the all-star DPS performances that the Fusion used to get away with more often in previous stages. Overwatch fundamentals wins games, and Fissure is one of the greats. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're going to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, dank memes, Overwatch League predictions. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.